So, yeah, Trevor, do you want to introduce yourself before we start, in the sense that everyone
Sure.
gets the gist of things as to who you are, what you do, and
A-
the story behind the man.
Absolutely. So my name is Trevor Nicholas. I actually live in Atlanta right now, but I work in Birmingham, which is probably about 2 hours away, and that's why you see me in my
Right.
car because I'm actually on my way back to Atlanta. But
Oh
I'm on
wow.
5G connection, so we should be okay. I've done this
Right.
before. You can probably tell. Um, But just to give you a little bit background on me, I am actually a research chemist. My background is chemical engineering. But approximately 12 years ago, I had an e-commerce business, very popular site. And as a result of that, that's how I got into scraping. So typically for an e-commerce business, you need a lot of data, you need images, you need
Right.
technical specs and whatnot. And at the time, I didn't really have a source to get that information. So what I ended up doing was using the distributor that I was working with and basically extracting all the data from their website. And that's really how my experience with scraping began. And
Nice.
I pretty much started off using PHP to do
Hmm.
scraping. I've used a lot of different tools over the years. RTILA is the
Right.
most recent. I've tried TextAU as well recently, but that's really more for specific tasks like LinkedIn and Facebook, social media, lead generation, extraction type
Right.
deals.
Right.
Um, and so shortly after experimenting with that, I tried RTILA. At first, I had no idea how to use it like everybody else. It almost seems like you need a PhD in physics
Yeah.
to get going. And so one Sunday afternoon, I decided that I would take a couple of hours and try to figure it out, just go through each button and see what it does. And I actually was able to get that done. And so it took about 4 hours, but I was really able to learn all the bells and whistles. And
Right.
as a result, I'm I would say a quasi expert. I wouldn't say an expert because there's so much that you can do with this application, and I haven't touched a lot of areas yet. But just from a getting started point, I think I
Mm.
can help you guys get over the learning curve that people talk about.
Absolutely.
And so we'll try to do that today. Um, I won't go through every bell and whistle, but I'll give you guys an idea of what you can do with Artilla with a
Right.
basic scrape. And you can use
Yeah.
Artilla for lots of different things.
Right.
I know you guys have different use cases, and it's just a very powerful tool. And if you bought it, you haven't used it, now's a good time to get going with it. Once you realize how powerful it is and the potential to with it,
Right.
you know, I think you'll use it more and more, and you'll abandon some of the other tools that you looked at.
Yeah.
And so hopefully I could give you guys a nice intro today
Right.
and go from there.
Absolutely fantastic. That was, I think, a great intro to, that sets the tone as well as to what this seminar, webinar kind of thing is. And so I think, yeah, say, I have a similar story. Your story I can resonate with yours because my experience with scraping actually started around 4 years ago, and I used Python with with Scrapy. So I built my own, teeny tiny scraper, getting all the things from the internet, all the resources, collecting those. And I don't know how to code in Python. I don't even claim to. So, yeah. And my recent experience again is with RTILA. And I was quite fascinated with the idea that you can do so many things, not just scraping. You can do automations, you can do, other sorts of things that are not real. You can build your own bots, kind of, like issues, and so which I really haven't seen in much sort of the no code softwares. It surely has a learning curve. That is for sure. I used the pre-made templates that were available initially to
Yeah.
kind of reverse engineer as to how this work. Figuring
Actually, that's a
out.
great way to learn. It's just to
Yeah,
take what's there and see
yeah,
how it works.
right. So yeah, I was just tinkering around with each and every button as you had mentioned earlier. So it's pretty much the same. I can I'm on the same track as you. So I hope to learn more and you know get started with at least the basics today. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So we'll
And
we'll
Alston, if sorry,
go ahead.
yeah, I was saying Alston, if you want to share a bit of
Yeah,
your
basically, I think I'm the only person here who does not have any experience with RTILA. My data scraping is not typical what you guys might be searching. I'm more into SEO field, right? So my scraping involves with competitor bulk analysis of finding out backlinks, outreach targets, and everything. And I've been using different kind of software from the beginning, like Scrapebox, Xrammer. All these are scraping softwares, but essentially tailored towards SEO or these kind of outreach processes.
right.
And I've been part of using Ubot Studio and several other tools as industry moves technological advance. Some software will try to keep up with the practices or new technologies, but others just stay out of it. So I've been using different software for different scraping needs, and sometimes when we need bulk data analysis, that is the power comes with a dedicated software. Can be Scrapebox, can be RTILA, can be a web scraper or Octos processor or anything like that. So that is my ideal goal for it. For example, whenever I see a custom solution, rather than going out and seeing whether TextAU has a script for it or Phantom Bust has a script for it, I need to create something quick and use something to get the custom data as easy as possible. So that is what I'm planning to learn on this session. I'm not going to be sharing anything on this session because I haven't even opened up RTILA so far, but I've been hearing from Sarang and even with Trevor that RTILA has been really great solution. So currently I'm using multiple different softwares. If RTILA can save me from the process, then it's going to be a great session for me. So I'm just going to be here for learning part of it, no sharing here. Thank you so much again, Trevor, for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem at all. I actually did a tutorial for one of the groups that I host on Facebook earlier this year.
Right.
So
Right.
actually, so that would have probably been my warm up for this. But we are going to be doing a series of RTILA tutorials over the next
Right.
3 months, and I
Yes.
welcome anyone that's interested in learning more about
Right.
RTILA to reach out to
Yeah.
me. You can private
Yeah.
message
And
me
please
on
feel free
Facebook.
to share your group's
Yeah,
link in our
and
group so that people can
absolutely.
engage.
Do you have the
Yeah.
link right now with you? If you have, you can paste it on the
So
chat, and I will also make sure to post it on
Yeah.
post session.
sure. So we can take care of that
Yeah.
after.
Right.
But yeah, so with that, we'll actually do a full intro where we'll cover
Right.
every single bell and whistle on the interface, and we'll basically do a scrape similar to what we do today. And then we'll have some follow-up sessions where we'll cover more advanced topics like CSS selections might be one session, and then we'll do another session on automations, which are very in-depth. And we have a lot of flexibility with RTILA to automate, particularly since RTILA is based on JavaScript. That's the foundation for RTILA. So if you know JavaScript already, it makes it really easy to do a lot.
I don't.
Okay,
To
so
be very frank, I suck
right.
at JavaScript.
The same,
So
yeah. JavaScript is like my worst nightmare, even when I was learning coding.
yeah, and so my background is actually with PHP.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
they kind of from a coding standpoint.
Yeah.
If you can understand PHP, you can understand
Yeah,
JavaScript.
that's
Right.
The
My background
fundamentals
is
are
actually in
similar.
Java, not in JavaScript.
Oh,
I
okay. Well,
learned
Java and
Java.
JavaScript were not too
Yeah.
far off,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
there's really only two or three areas of JavaScript that you really need to hone in on. I
Right.
usually tell people that if you can master the string methods, then you can do a lot because you're basically going to try to manipulate text in
Right.
RTILA. And then
Right.
the other one is HTML DOM, which allows you to
Yeah.
access the CSS elements on a page.
Right.
And so those
Right.
two things will get you very, 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 very far. And so
That's right.
if you're interested in those, like I said, certainly we'll have some follow-up sessions, but those are very advanced for for an intro. So we won't be covering
Right.
those today. But I'll show you guys.
also, so for basic usage of RTILA, you don't need any programming language knowledge, right?
Not at all. It's all
Because
point and click.
we just scared some of the chat people and started saying that I need to take on coding lessons. So I just wanted to make
No,
sure that.
no, we won't need it. But I'll show you some cool stuff. Okay. Well, I will give you something basic that will help you to understand RTILA a little bit. And I used
Okay.
this case with my group about 7-8 months ago. And so it's basically Amazon. You go on Amazon, you want to search for something, it gives you a list of products. And if you click on one of those list items, you can get the details of the product. So that's how the two basic functions that RTILA has is to extract data from a list, which would be like search results, or it can extract. So it's basically data that repeats would be a list, and then details would be a specific item, and so every detail would basically be in regards to a particular item, if that makes any sense. Okay, so lists and
Right.
details. But I'll go ahead and share my screen, and
Sure.
we'll try to build a project from scratch.
All right. Go for
Absolutely.
it.
Let's build
We
the
have some
bot.
suggestions. But I'll let you know we have some comments coming as suggestions.
Sure.
But you go ahead with your example first, and stage is yours, buddy. Go ahead.
All right, I'm sharing my screen. Obviously, you're going to see this mess, but I will go over to RTILA.
That's all right.
Let's try to get that from there. Okay. All right. So, can you guys see RTILA here?
Yeah, we can say it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And so this is the what the new version of RTILA looks like. You see, we're using version 4.7,
It's the alpha. Yeah. Right.
which just came out a couple days ago.
Right.
RTILA is actually in the process of changing to more of a modular type structure, and so you'll be able to do some cool stuff once the new version of RTILA comes out. And I'm not sure what the timing on that is. I was actually waiting for it to come out to do my tutorial, but I am gonna probably proceed before that. Okay.
Right.
So basically, you have some folders here. So this is where your projects would be. You can see I have a couple in here already. Flows is something completely new. This is brand new, maybe only a couple days old.
Right.
This allows you to sequence projects. So you can basically run from one project into the next. It's like next level is what I tell people. Okay.
Yeah.
Results is where you get your extracted data. And then you have profiles here, which I don't mess around with. I just have one profile. Okay. And then distributions is also something new where you can create a bot, and it's an executable bot that you can send to a customer or a client and have them run an extraction without having to actually touch the bells and whistles. And this is not available in any other scraping tool right now that I know of. So this is
Right.
why RTILA is really one of the best tools. Okay, but I won't bother you guys with the rest of this stuff. You can see there's documentations. There are some video tutorials, but then they have been based on previous interfaces, so it's really difficult to learn with those. And then there is a RTILA group on Facebook, so that's what those link to. But we will get started, and I'm going to go to projects, because that's really the easiest place for me to start. And we're going to create a new project. And so if you click on options, okay, well, 1 second here. So let's start here with the new. Okay, so you can start a couple of different ways. You can use a public template. So the RTILA dev has shared a number of templates. Some popular ones that people might be interested in, like maybe scraping Google Maps and whatnot. But we're not going to do one of those. We'll start from scratch and do a manual. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll do manual. Okay.
Also, just to interject in for a second, because there's a few comments coming in. Is it possible to show only the RTILA screen? The reason for that is because when you execute the bot or any kind of scraping or any automation, it'll open a new Chrome tab, a Chrome window. So it's best to not.
Yeah. That's exactly why I have to show the whole screen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just to clarify to everyone, that we don't want to skip the screens from one RTILA to a Chrome window. So that's the reason why Trevor is actually showing the entire screen. So sorry, Trevor, sorry to.
Thank you for that explanation, but that makes perfect sense. Okay, so today we are gonna do a scrape of Amazon.com, okay? Because they have tons of products and images and great data. And so I'm going to start. Basically, you have to enter a URL to inspect. And so I will, well, let me get something first. So I'm going to go over to my regular Chrome browser. And then I'm going to go to Amazon. So this is kind of like the process that you'd probably use to do a scrape. Right. So I'm going to go to Amazon.com, and today I want to look for competitive products. I want to see who's selling certain things. I'm a merchant, so I want to make sure I have the best price. So I am going to look for, let's say something, maybe a Bluetooth headset, okay?
Yeah.
Right.
It's a funny thing. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. So now you see all these different products that are listed on the page, and if we want, we can capture some of this data. And so, right up here would be the link for my search. I am gonna just capture the important part, which is the search variable, and then I'm gonna go back over to RTILA. And where we started our project, this is the options page for RTILA, and you really only need to enter 2 things. Well, 3. The name of the project, and let's call this, just for today, Amazon.
Amazon.
Bluetooth headset.
Mm.
And then I'm going to enter the URL. And then we're initially going to do a list page. So remember I told you there are 2 different options. This is where you find them.
Yeah.
So you have list and details. But since we're looking at a search results page, we're going to do list. Okay? And then there's some other bells and whistles. Like I said, I won't go through those today because it'll take forever. Like I said, just focus on the project name, the URL, and the type of list that you're doing. I mean, everything else you can keep the same. Okay?
Right.
All right, so once you do that, you have to click save and close. So I did that, and now you can see my project number 9 is Amazon Bluetooth headset. And to see that in RTILA, we need to use the inspect function. And so I will click on inspect, and it will open up a browser. Okay, and if you see down here in my on my bar here, I'm using Mac. If you can tell. And so this is my RTILA browser. I also have a regular Chrome browser on the other side over here, but the RTILA is down at the end. Okay, and you can see here RTILA opens up basically 2 panels on the sides, and then Amazon is in the middle. And so this panel here on the left, I call the inspection panel, and then this panel here on the right, I call the automation panel. And you may have different names for those, but that's what I call them. Okay?
Yeah.
And so again, this is the Amazon page here. You can see, apologize for that, I went too far.
Right.
Okay. All right, so we're back. Okay, so that's basically how RTILA is laid out. You can actually hide these panels if you like. So if you go here to your Chrome pin thing, I'll call it the jigsaw, you can activate the RTILA plugin, which is this yellow button that you see over here. Okay? And that will let you resize the panels, which is really important because you don't want them to get in the way. And you can actually separate them from the page by using the enable the float window. So that will give you separate pages for each panel. For now, we don't really need automation, so I'm going to go turn that off so we have a little bit more space. And so you can see all I did was pin this so it stays here.
Right.
Okay? And so all I did was uncheck the automation. Okay? And then there's one other panel that I forgot to mention is the preview panel, which will be at the bottom down here. Okay? All right. So doing a basic search, the first thing you need to do is to add a property. And so I'm going to go ahead and click add a property here. And we need to find the CSS element that will identify that item. And so I'm not going to do the photo. Let's try to get this here, which is the description of the product. Okay. So the way you do it in RTILA is you select something first. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and select this. You can see it's surrounded by the orange. So I will select that. And then it selects what it thinks I'm looking for. So you can see all the other elements are
So it
selected.
also selects the other bits.
Correct. But I'm not really interested in like the ads and things that are in between the product data. I just want the actual search data. And so the way you do that is once you get everything green, you turn the stuff that you don't want red. See, I can kind of move around. And so I want to get rid of this filter by price thing here. So I'm going to click it and turn it red. See? So now that's gone.
So it's just a normal left click and no right clicks or any other things.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, this is all right click.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you don't have to, there's no left click function for this. Right. So it just does it in stages. So the first stage is orange, and then it becomes green, and then you get rid of the stuff that you don't want.
Right. Okay.
So I'm going to get rid of this. So basically, see, it's red, and so I can click on it, and I get rid of that. And so you really only want the green and the yellow stuff. I don't want this because it's not part of what I'm looking for. So I will turn that red. And this is a really easy way to get your elements. So turn that red. So that got rid of that. And now I'm just left with these.
Sorry to interrupt. Is there a way to undo it? Like if I mistakenly press something, is there a way to undo it?
There is, but I would suggest just starting over in that case. Because I would tell you this particular is not the best. As a quasi-pro, I don't actually use this selector feature. I use the Chrome inspector, and I have a way to get the CSS from there. So in one of my advanced courses, I'll teach you that. But for now, good question, but I don't want to start over right now. Okay, so you can see now I have all the elements that I like. And if you look right here in blue, you can see there's 16 of them. So that tells you how many
Yeah.
items we're going to be selecting. And it was actually
Right.
able to capture the CSS right here, where you see the .s. And so that's actually the class. If you look at the HTML, it will have .sline clamp -2. And so it was able to capture all these the descriptions, with just these two classes here. You have the .s and the .a. Okay. All right.
Right.
So it's basically just point and click. Okay. So once you've captured your CSS, you need to save it. And so if you don't save stuff with RTILA, it will disappear. So here's the save button. I'm going to go ahead and save. Okay. And see it's saving, and then it'll become back to its normal state. Okay. Now, right next to the save button, you'll also see this navigation option here. This is for if you want to browse while you're trying to find elements. Okay. So in this particular state, because we're trying to capture the CSS elements, we're not able to browse.
It's on the
So
auto
if
select
I were to
mode,
click on this, it would not go through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if you want to do that, you have to click on navigation. So I'm just pointing that out. Okay. All right. So I've saved this element, and it's saved. But I also want to get some prices. It doesn't make any sense to get the description without price. So I'll go ahead and do a second scrape. And again, you have to click on the green plus new property. And you can see another element popped up here.
Right.
It has 0 because I haven't selected anything yet. And so now I'm going to go back to that first item, and I will try to get the price. Okay. And let's see if it did it. Okay, so there's some prices up here that I don't want. And actually, it's going to get a little bit complicated for this particular scrape, because Amazon separates the dollar portion from the cents portion.
Yeah.
So there's actually like 2 different values that we can get here.
Right.
And we can capture both and combine them with JavaScript.
Right.
Okay. So, well, let's just get the dollar amount for now, just to keep things simple. All right. Okay. So I selected the price down here, but it's selected all this other stuff that I don't really want. Again, you're going to use the red to get rid of elements. So I'm going to click on this. It turns red, and I got rid of those that were in that class. And I'm going to keep looking, see if I see anything I don't want. And it looks like I've got everything I want. And so, actually, one thing is missing, because I can tell here that this says 16 and this says 15. So let me see what that could be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. These are the type of checks that you have to do when you're scraping to make sure all your data lines up.
Right.
Right now. So anyway, I'm going to just save it with the 15 for the time being. And so, again, you have to click on the save. Save in. And then now it's saved. So I'm going to go back over to the initial one and remove, let's temporarily remove this selection. Good. Yeah. All right. All right. So anyway, looks like I messed up my selection here, but I'll show you how to get everything back real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and close the browser. If you want to close the RTILA browser, which is this one here, I'm just going to close it. And I won't lose the data that I had from before because I saved the 2 different elements that I selected. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on inspect again. And that will bring everything back.
Right. So that's, I mean, saving it is super helpful because you don't
and
lose
so you can
the
see
data.
you can see the 2 elements are still there.
Right.
Okay. Let me make this a little bit bigger. When you're sharing a screen, it's you kind of have to do some odd things here. All right. Okay. So I've got these 2 elements here. There's a slight mismatch in numbers. Now this is saying 22. This is saying 21. But it's okay. Our gold looks like one of these
I
items
think we
here
can live
doesn't
with
have a
one
price.
less entry. It's fine.
Yeah, I think we're fine. And so basically that's how you select your items. And to do an actual extraction with RTILA, here again we're going to have to go back and pin this plugin. I'm going to have to talk to the developer because this should be automatic. Otherwise, you won't know where to look. But this is where you find the RTILA, which is actually a plugin. It's a Chrome extension. Okay, and I'm going to click on it and put the automation panel back on because you will need the automation, a simple automation, to extract the data. And so to do that, you have to click the new button. And basically, there are different kinds of automations that you can do in RTILA. It's very sophisticated. For us, we need basically 2 types, 2 simple automations to make this work. The first one is you need to make sure that the page fully loads. So we're going to do a wait time here, okay? And so you just select wait time, and then I'm going to add. This will allow the browser to finish loading if you're on a slow connection or something, okay? And so if you click on wait time here, it will expand, and you can change the time. I'm going to put 6 seconds, and that's really all you need. You're just giving it a certain amount of time before it starts to do the extraction. For the actual extraction, I'm going to click and add another command. And to do an extraction, you kind of have to scroll through this here, and you can see there's one that says extract results. So I will select on that, and then I will add it, and you can see it's here now. Okay, and that's really all you need to do an extraction. It's a very simple automation. You wait for the browser to load, and then you extract the data. Okay, and so again, kind of like with the inspection panel, you have to make sure you save, otherwise RTILA won't save it. So as you remember, our save button is right here in blue. You click on it, and it saves it. So you can also rename these actions. So I could call this one wait if I want to. I call this one get data or whatever I want to call it, and it will be saved. You can collapse all these actions if you like, and you can expand them. It's if you need to see the specific details. Okay, so I've got my elements over here saved, and I've got my automation on this side saved. I'm gonna close out and start running an extraction. It's really simple. Okay, so I'm gonna close my browser again. Okay, one thing to remember is when you close your RTILA browser, make sure the icon disappears, because if it doesn't, it's just going to be in your way. Okay, so I double check and it's gone. And then to run an extraction, all you have to do is click this run button. Okay, so I clicked it, That will open up the browser. It's going to wait, and then it's going to extract the data. Okay, so you can see it closed on its own.
Yeah.
To see the data, you click on the three dots right here.
I think it's the results.
Actually, not that
page.
one. Sorry.
Oh, we can go in results.
Yes, results. 1 second here, guys.
Sorry.
They changed the interface so many times over the last year that I sometimes forget. Okay, so you can see
you can
our scrape here. We have the 22 elements. You can click on the preview button, which is green, and you can see this is our data, which will be in a spreadsheet while we save it. Okay, and so I'm going to close this, and to save, you can
just export it, I think, from the preview.
Correct. So, but I wanted to show that you can click on this to show the requests.
Right.
Some options here. Okay. But from the preview, you can export, and you have three different formats. Yeah. So you have CSV, is comma space delimited, and basically you can import that into Excel or many spreadsheets, probably Google Sheet as well. And then you have the JSON format, and then you can do an HTML table. I typically do CSV, so I will save as CSV, and then let's call this Amazon Bluetooth. Okay.
Yeah.
Bluetooth headset. I'm going to save it, and it will save, if I'm not mistaken, to my download.
The default is the documents file.
Yeah, so it will be wherever. It depends on how your browser is set up. My browser saves on my Mac to my downloads folder. Yeah. But if you're on Windows, it might be different. And so you can see here is the file. I'm going to open up. I actually have numbers and Excel on my computer, but I prefer numbers, and so I will open it up with numbers. Numbers is just like basically the Mac version of Excel, which is I think a little bit nicer. Okay, I'll go ahead and open that up. Okay, so you can see numbers is right here, and it's about to open, and voila, there is our data. Okay, I'm going to make this a little bit wider. You can see I've got the description and then the dollar portion of the price here. Okay, and so that's really the easiest way. This text needs to be formatted a little bit, and so there are some things that you can do in RTILA to format it. Like, let's say I wanted to put a $sign and whatnot, but I just wanted to show you guys how easy it is to do a scrape once somebody shows you how to do it. Okay, so you didn't need any physics today, folks. But basically that's it. And we can scrape an unlimited number of data points. You can really identify what you want to scrape. But let's go back over to RTILA, and I'll show you a few more things, and then I'll see if you guys have any questions, because I'm not going to do anything more complex than this today. But I'm sure there's going to be some folks that are going to have some questions. But I want to point out some things that will help you with your extractions and your scrape. And so I'll go back over to the project. I'm going to go to the project folder, and I'm going to do inspect again. And I will show you some key things that you need to consider or explore when you're doing your scrape. Okay. So you can see the bottom part here is an inspection panel, so you can actually get a preview of your data, and it basically just lists the data in a column type format. Okay, all right. So let's go to this first item here. Okay, and I'm going to explain this whole window here. Okay, so the first item is basically the CSS selection element that we picked with the yellow and the green. Okay, this here is the property, which is basically the name. So if I want, I can call this the description. actually give everything a name. Okay, I've got an extra I. And so that will name it. And then you can see we're doing a list type of extraction, but the other option would be a detail.
Right.
The drop down says detail, but we're doing list. You can enter some default values if you like, if you would like RTILA to fill in some values before it extracts them. And then you can see here you can do a custom collection. With this, it really makes selections a lot easier than it used to, because now you can specify a parent element, and RTILA will just focus on to do the action. So sometimes you can have a class in different parts of the page, and that helps to really hone in on a particular CSS element that you're looking for. Okay, now here is something that's really important. Okay, so when we extracted this data, we actually extracted the inner text. So if you look at the HTML, we would be getting the text that's in between the tags. And that's typically all you need for extraction, but sometimes you want to get attributes that are inside the tags, and for that you'll have to change it to attributes. And then if you want a specific attributes, like let's say you're doing an A tag, which is basically for hyperlinks, and you want the href, the href attribute, you can put that in here, and it will get you the link instead. Okay, but this is not, you're not doing an A here, so you won't be able to get that. But I wanted to just show you how you do that. So you can get the inner text, you can get the inner HTML. So you can, if you just want the HTML as well, you could do that. Or if you want the attribute within the tag, you can use this. So very, very, very powerful. You can really key in on what you're looking for. And then there's some options to do timestamp and to download elements and things like that. Okay. I don't usually play with these, but they're there. Okay. Now, so this is basically the advanced tab. There's a second tab here for filters. I use that all the time. And for this, you just basically click on the plus add filter button. Pardon me. And then you can filter with either reg, you're familiar with that, or you can use JavaScript. So down here in the actions, I can type in some JavaScript, and you can play with the data by using field value here as your variable. Okay, so if I was going to do some JavaScript and I wanted to manipulate the description, I would put field value and play around with that, probably using some JavaScript basic type functions. Okay. All right. So filters will basically take your data and change it, or basically reformat it. Okay. Then there's a next tab called conditions. Conditions is what allows you to throw out data. So let's say I was scraping fruits and I didn't want to capture any of the apples. I can create a condition and say, hey, if this data is equal to apple, and you can use like simple, well, let's not get into there because it can get a little bit complex, but you can do ands and ors. And right. And this does have regex as well, and so regex allows you to filter out data, and so that's something, another area that you can use to become an expert. So if you're good at regex, if you're good at JavaScript, you could really do a lot. Okay, and then monitoring is basically for checking to see if the data has changed or not, and so. You can schedule RTILA to run a particular time of the day, and so basically if you add a monitor feature, you can alert yourself basically if something has changed.
Right.
Okay. So I just wanted to show you guys those. Those are a little bit more in depth and more advanced than what I was willing to cover today. But I think we've seen how to do a basic scrape, and let's see if anybody's got any questions based on what I've done.
I think there was a lot of questions coming in, and a lot of even for myself. I know Alston is probably have a lot of questions.
No, I just wanted to clarify a basic question before we go out any advance.
Okay.
Can you quickly let us know how the pagination and extractions inside a product page work? Let's say you find all the different links, right? If I want to get the description of the product also, and how that's
yes. Okay, great question. So that's where automation comes into play. And so basically today, all we did was we captured the list, which is the search results that we saw in the middle of the page here. But I'm going to click on navigation for a second so we can use this browser. And so I'm going to go to the first item. And it's asking me if I want to leave. And so, yep. And so now it's loading the actual product description. Okay. So if I wanted to set up another scrape, I can scrape the description for just this product alone, okay? And so I will basically go through the exact same process as I did with the list and kind of pick out the CSS elements that I want. Let's see here. For a second. Okay, so like let's say I can capture the brand, I can capture the model number, prices are on here as well too, descriptions, technical data, all this stuff is capturable. And so what you do is you would set up a detail scrape and capture that detail for one item. Okay, now if you want to get them all, you can set up a automation on the side over here. So basically, and I'll show you which one it is. So there is an action that allows you to open pages. Okay. So let's see if I can find it. So yeah, here, go to URL. Okay. So the way I would set this up if I was going to do a full automation is I would use this, and I'll just add it temporarily so you can see what I'm talking about. I select it, I'm going to add it, but it's not really in the right order here. You can actually move around stuff in the automation panel, which is really cool. But I'm going to just go in here for a second. So with this, if I were going to do an automation, I would do the list use function here because you can basically open up a URL. And then I would add another function, which is basically this one is on here. Okay, so then there's another function called sometimes I can do this different ways. So let's add click on element function, okay? All right, so basically this will open up the page. So go to URL, will open up the page. Then you can click on an element. And so basically we can set up this element to be the CSS selector that we had from before in the inspection panel. So you'll put this here, and then RTILA will iterate between all the items on that page and open them up one at a time. So basically the first one, the second one, until it runs out of CSS elements that match, okay? And then after the page opened, you can do your detail scrape, and then you can do your extraction. So you basically will have these functions running sequentially. But that's how you would capture both the list and the details, okay? Now, you don't want to do both. I would just do the details if you're doing a details page because the way the list is formatted is basically only the description and price right now. And for details, you're going to have other elements, so they won't really match each other. But basically everything that's in the list is already on the details page anyway. You really only need the URL from the original page to do this automation. And so just capture all the details with a detail type extraction, and that's how you do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you're basically going to set up an automation.
Yeah, I think makes perfect sense.
But those are the elements that you would need. You would need to open the URL, click on the element, which would be the item's URL, and then it's going to iterate through those elements and open up the page one at a time. And then each time it opens, you do an extraction of the details. Right. It looks more complex than it is, but I think maybe in one of the advanced courses or tutorials, I can go more details. For today, I would suggest that if you're starting out, to do simple scrapes first, because there's a lot of different ways to do this. So RTILA actually has another function called bridge, and I'll show you where it's located, where you can take, for example, we already did our list. You can load that list into another project. And the way you do that is with variables right here and with this bridge function. So basically, if I have CSV data, I can pull that CSV data into a second project using a bridge. So basically, you can go from a list into a detail page scrape using this function. And so there's many different ways that you can do extractions in RTILA. That's why I think it's one of the most powerful tools out there. And you can, enhance data you already have, in different formats. Right. And so definitely you can do things. Did you have any other questions?
Yeah, actually, I was about to say there is a lot of questions, and what I want to know is, can you scrape GMB? Like, I know you can scrape anything you want on the web. The GMB listings. Let's say, for example, if I'm targeting a client and he has like no rating, okay, so I'm just sending him a report or saying that these are the businesses in your area with these kind of rating, and it scrapes the business listing with the name and their star rating. Is that possible?
Yeah.
So here's the deal, right? This is what I tell people, because I see people, particularly like in an RTILA group, like newbies, they join and they say, well, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do whatever? The answer is, if you can see.
I think he got cut off.
Yeah. So, I think what he was, what Trevor.
So the answer is yes, you can do Google My Business.
Okay, perfect. There was another
because you can manually do that.
Okay, there was Sarang. You want to go through the questions quickly?
Yeah. So I'll go through them, one by one. So there's.
I'm actually having recording all the questions, so I can quickly ask everything.
Okay, go for it.
The first question is, if we are scraping, let's say GMB or Amazon or something like that, if we do heavy scraping, we are going to get blocked. So is there proxy solutions inside RTILA also?
Yeah.
Yes. So there is an option, and I'll show you where it is. So we'll just go outside of our here, and so you see right here. So once your project is highlighted, you can go to proxies, and you can enter your proxies here. So there's a button for that. And in the automation section of RTILA, there's actually a function that allows you to swap out or rotate your proxies in the middle of a script, which is excellent. That way they'll never be able to detect you if you're using multiple proxies, and basically you're going to be rotating your IPs. So yes, that is possible.
Right.
And the next question is, does it have any possibility to solve captchas or any spam protection measures, like typing the numbers on the image, ReCaptcha or something like that?
Yep, right here, captcha. So if you've got captcha service, which is a paid service, you can use that to do captchas. So very good question.
Makes sense.
So
And also
it's under more options.
For paginations, there are several types of paginations, right? Either number pagination, next pagination, or just load more pagination, or just scrolling down. Does RTILA support all of those kind of grapes, or is there any limitation on paginations?
We'll go back into the inspection. And so those are under the automation panel. Okay, so I'm waiting for this to load. Sometimes when you open RTILA, it does this thing where it doesn't load. So let me see that back in. Okay, so there it is now. All right, so if you ever have any issues with RTILA loading, just click on the RTILA plugin and uncheck and check these things. That will help. I know it's a common bug or issue, so just remember that. Okay, so under automation, there are some functions for clicking on. So we're going to go to events, and so you can do different kinds of elements. And so one of the ways that you can click through pages to get to the next page is to do a click. And so you could do that. But RTILA actually has some built-in automation right here. So you can go forward to the next page. That's one possible action. And then you can go to the previous page. And it works really, really well. But I personally like using the click function because there are some websites that require an actual click before it will go to the next page. They may be using JavaScript or something for their pagination. And so I typically do my paginations, iterate through different pages using clicks. But they do have a built-in way to do that. Okay, so it's a good question, but it's in the automation section.
Okay, and is it also possible to scrape for websites which require logged in to be scraped? Like, for example, data is not available public, only after logging in you will be able to see the data.
Good. Yes, that's a very good question. So if you want data that's specific to a login, you need to go to the login page, log in. Now, until that site requires you to log in again. Like, let's say your session expires, and so you can't do that. And so that's why this navigation function is here too.
Sorry to interrupt, Trevor. Can you repeat that? We got cut off on the middle.
I'm sorry. Okay, yes. So basically, whenever you open the action panel in RTILA and you log in, RTILA will save the cookies. And so if you close the browser and you reopen again, it will save your session, and so it will automatically log you in if your session hasn't expired. Okay, and if you're in the middle of the scrape or trying to set up a scrape and you're not logged in, all you have to do is to use the navigation function that we talked about earlier. You just check it, and then you can navigate to where the login is. Like, for example, like here, I could go to the sign-in page for Amazon. And it's going. And now I'm on the sign-in page. So if I log in here and I close my browser, the next time I come back, it will be there. I will be logged in.
Makes sense.
Okay? Does that answer that question?
Yeah, it answers that. And if we set up any share rules for RTILA, will we need to make it open the application manually, or does it automatically opens up the application or something like that? Can we set up it on a server environment or something like that, similar to that?
Yeah. So yes, that's a good question. RTILA actually works on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So you can actually basically create your scrape on Windows, and you can export the project file to Linux and run it there. And obviously with Linux, you have like prone jobs that you can set up to run things on schedule. With Windows, you have the Windows scheduler, and Mac doesn't have it so much, but there are some apps that you can use to run things on schedule. But I would suggest that if you're doing an RTILA extraction and you want it to be done at a certain time, you should at least have the app open. But you can, I know like in Windows, you can do like batch scripts and whatnot. I believe you can do that on the Mac as well too, to open a certain time, to open the app a certain time. But I think if you're going to do a scrape, it's open already. Now, you can run RTILA in silent mode, where it's basically doing everything in the background. I don't do that because I want to see what's happening. But basically, I think if you're doing, say you're trying 1,000 pages, you really don't want to be doing anything else on the computer while that's running, because you may have a conflict in priorities for the CPU. And so if you're going to do a major scrape, just plan on not using that computer for a while, or, purchase a do your scrapes there.
Okay, and one last question from my yeah, that answers the question. One last final question from my side. Basically, can RTILA is only meant to be supposed to extract data, or can we use it to automate tasks, something like clicking on buttons, following them? It can be anything. Or does it require to be scraping some kind of data at the final end?
No, you don't have to scrape data, because as I showed you before in the automation, you can click on buttons, you can do keyboard type strokes, you could do button clicks, you can do anything really, and that's what I think differentiates RTILA from tools like Hexomatic and TextAU and whatnot, because you can do all these added things. And so,
also to add to Trevor's, sorry to cut you off. Please go on.
No, I was going to say that I think so. It's a great tool to have, because it will actually your others.
Right. So I was saying, just to add to what Trevor was saying, you can do some things. What Alston might be interested in is something like black hat SEO techniques. You can actually set up traffic generators for the site. So RTILA can actually open multiple windows or tabs simultaneously, and you can have traffic, bot traffic going on your website or any other website basically. You can do that for stress testing. You can do that for multiple purposes. So it's not just limited to just scraping. It can do a lot of automation tasks. And also, I think the founder had mentioned that they'll be bringing in the cloud app, they'll be doing a lot of chained automation, so which is similar to what TextAU does.
Yeah,
I think
so
this needs a drum
that
roll.
was actually linked this wheel. So this is the flow section that will do the chains. Yeah. So this is going to be very powerful once we start using this. And the other thing too is when RTILA Studio comes out, you'll be able to create what we call projects. I think TextAU calls them recipes, and you can share them with other users. And you can actually make them available for sale. It's going to be really neat to have a marketplace to get stuff and not have to do everything from scratch.
That's going to be pretty cool. We can just download someone else's automation or anything that they've developed and use it on our own.
And also, I see some specific questions on the comment section in the group and also in the Runable that can it do a specific action, like can it scrape social media, Google Maps, so everything. So from what I see from the Trevor demonstration, we have all the different functionality like extraction of data, pagination to browsing around, looping different elements together, and also clicking on different automation stuff. So basically we have the toolkit. We just need to customize for whatever our use cases depending on that. And we need to be using proxies and other solution to be safe. Also, we have the tool set. We just need to be responsible and do it on the way we want. That's what I understand.
And just to repeat what Trevor said, I mean, RTILA is you can possibly do anything that you can see. So you can extract
if you can see it,
can see.
Actually, it can extract stuff you can't see as well. So don't limit yourself to what you can see. It can, but what I tell people is because you can go to you can view the HTML and you can see stuff there that you won't see when the page loads. But what I tell people is, if you can do it manually, so if I can inspect the page and look at the data that way and capture it manually, you can actually automate it with RTILA as well. So don't limit yourself to what you can see. And in one of my advanced courses or tutorials, I will actually show how to capture some of that data that you can't see. And that, for example, that the inspection tool that we use inside of RTILA is not capable of getting that type of data. So that's a little bit more advanced. But like I said, I think within the next month or so, I will be scheduling a more in-detailed type in-depth, to get everybody going, and then we'll have an intermediate and advanced tutorial later on to deal with more advanced topics.
Yeah, that's going to be super exciting. And there's one more question that has come from David. He's like, Trevor, what's the coolest thing that you've done today with RTILA?
Oh, very good. Yeah. Okay, so by far the most difficult scrape that I've ever done was to capture an Airtable's a public Airtable. The reason why that was difficult is because when you're looking at the Airtable data on a web page, and obviously this is for a table that you couldn't save to your Airtable account. So this is just something that's it's publicly viewable, but you can't really save or extract the data unless you just print like a PDF. And the reason why it was difficult is because Airtable uses, I believe, React or some other front-end tool where they're not showing all the data at once in an HTML file. So for me to make this work, I actually had to walk myself through the table one element at a time and force Airtable to update that data and catch it. And I captured it in real time. And I was able to make that work. And so I basically converted an Airtable to a Google Sheet. But it took about 8 hours to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I don't ever wish that on anybody. But yes, you can do some very difficult things. Because you can see some data, but it might not be HTML. It could be React, basically a JavaScript type front end, and that's generating the HTML. And those are the really most difficult. That's a very good question. But that by far was the most difficult.
Yeah, that's why, Vinny is commenting. He's like, I have been trying to scrape data on Airtable for a while now. It's super difficult.
So we all know that it's going to be the final exam to get a pass grade on Trevor's course, that you need to be able to scrape a Airtable for in order to pass it.
There you go. Then you get your physics degree.
You pass with an A in the thesis, and
I think those are the questions I'm seeing from my end. Do you have any other questions from the group, Sam?
I have, just give me 1 second. I don't know, but let's see. There is, sorry.
there's echo somewhere.
He now muted himself. Let's see if there's any other questions. We can probably end the session.
Right.
It's been really insightful so far.
Yeah, I mean that's why everyone loves RTILA.
Sorry, I got a question here. I think it's gonna be yes. Any chance we could talk about scraping DoorDash or Uber Eats, etc.? I think we can scrape all that, right? Too.
Yes.
Yeah. If you can scrape Amazon, I mean, you can scrape pretty much every site in the world. So,
I have one question that I was actually asking Sarang too. He did answer me, but I want to know like from Trevor too. It's about the proxy, right? So what I wanted to know that I have to buy another proxy and then use that proxy, right? But I think Sarang, you mentioned that I can do a small scraping without like my IP address getting banned. So I don't know how you consider like.
Yeah, we just did. I mean, we just did on Amazon. So it was a small scrape. So I mean, till they don't flag you for your IP.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, basically, with that scrape, we only loaded the one page for the list, so that's not going to really, flag you or anything in their logs because it's only one page. But doing the details, like let's say I opened 1,000 detail pages, I think by the time you got to the 100, they would be identifying your IP as suspect and shut you down.
Exactly.
Okay? So
what if I'm doing
want to add some.
Facebook? Sorry.
Same
Facebook
thing.
is the same. And LinkedIn is the worst. So don't try to do stuff on LinkedIn without a proxy. They will block your account. Instagram as well. So you definitely want to do these, complex scrape, particularly if you're going to be doing a lot of pages with a proxy. But hey, I want to add on to something that somebody asked about the DoorDash. Now there are some sites that make it very difficult for you to scrape. So basically, every time they generate a page, they change it. So the data is always different. And a good example of that would be like real estate type websites. I'm not going to say any names right now because I don't want them to come after me or whatever. I'm sure you can think of a couple of them. They don't like you taking their data, so they basically every time you open up that page, they're changing something in the data to thwart you from trying to scrape. So on the server side, they can make it difficult for you to scrape. But visually, if you can see it, it really is possible. And perhaps you can create an automation that will identify every variation that there is for that site, and you can still get the data.
And also just one follow-up question on proxies. Do we have to mandatorily use the built-in proxy solution, or can we use something like VPN or external residential, any solution which is not built-in or within RTILA?
Yeah. So the one that's built-in, you actually have to pay for the service. RTILA does not provide a proxies at all. So you have to have a paid service that you add your credentials, and you add credentials to RTILA. Now, there's one feature in RTILA that I didn't mention to you guys that you can use. So you can see here, you can add extensions to your projects. That's out there. And there are some free VPN services, like I think Ola might be one. And you can add those to your project so that when they run, they're actually working in the background. And so if you've got a paid VPN service, I think there's a few like VPN Unlimited and Strong VPN. They have Chrome extensions. So you can use those with your projects.
Right.
Does that answer that question?
You mean instead of using a proxy, I can use a VPN like extension? And
yes, via the extension.
If it has a Chrome extension,
And just to add, just bit of information for the users, for sometimes VPNs also will get restricted a lot, especially if you are using some lifetime deal VPN where a lot of users are on the same server. Even if you are not using some services heavily, you will also get blocked because of the other users. So the ideal solution, if you are looking to scrape a lot of sites, go for private proxies, because that is the way you will be only sole person using. Don't go for VPN or semi-dedicated proxies. If you could afford residential proxies, that's even better. So those are the options for any heavy users. If you are just scraping one page or some data occasionally, you don't need to worry about it.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
What about Twitter? I know it's the same rule, but it's just for fun. I'm asking Twitter because Alston had a bad experience.
So yeah, I think Vinith is asking, Trevor, can I contact you to learn how to scrape Airtable?
After you take my introductory and intermediate course, then obviously we can work on that.
Trust me, guys. It took me a lot of convincing, to get Trevor here because he's super busy, and also, he's I think moving out of his house and moving into a new one. So yeah, it was a bit iffy on.
Thank you so much for Trevor for doing it. This session just meant to be the overview sessions to get the basic idea. Even I got the basic idea. And Trevor, as he mentioned at the start of the session, that he will be doing follow-up videos course which is creating, and also will share the link. We will add those links after the post sessions. You will have the access to it. So if you are interested in learning more or getting to know all the advancement, because as I believe we have not even scratched all the essential stuff in RTILA. There were so many features, so many functions, a lot of different properties. So we will be covering all those in-depth advanced stuff. So we will mention all the links. So if you wanted to learn more or to get the maximum potential, you can follow Trevor through those channels as well to get more idea.
Also join the RTILA, the Facebook group, because a lot of people ask questions. You get your answers, and the founder's also pretty active there. I think Trevor is also pretty active there. So that's how I actually found Trevor to be the main so the boss of RTILA. So yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
So guys, I want to make it this RTILA. I only do these tutorials to help people to better understand and use the app, because I think if we all support the developer, I think in the end we're gonna have a really fantastic tool that no other tool will be able to compare to.
Absolutely.
And so I put a lot of energy and time in trying to get people to use it.
Absolutely. And so yeah, I just wanted to say a final thanks to Trevor.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot to come here, especially, and take your time out for everyone, and do this event for us. So I will be bothering you again and again. Obviously,
no problem.
Until all of us master the Airtable scrape, we will be bothering you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm an open door, so if you have any questions, just reach out to me.
Absolutely. And Trevor is in our group, so he's fairly active there. And he actually, before I reached out to him, he told me that he knows the other two admins, which is Alston and Fernando. So I was quite happy that we have people who are making a name for themselves, and Trevor, the master of RTILA, knows them.
That's
so
good.
Yeah. And thanks a lot, Trevor.
Thank you, Trevor.
You guys are welcome.
Really appreciate for the time you give us and feel free to post your if you have any updates or any courses you get, we'll post it on our group.
And please follow Trevor's group as well. Get in there, and there's a lot of stuff that he shares and other people share. It's great. It's a great group for learning a lot of new skills. not just RTILA, other skills as well. So yeah.
All right, guys.
So yeah, well, it was my pleasure to do this intro today, and hopefully I'll be talking to some of you guys again soon.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.